Hi guys, welcome back to Ethereal Arts Studio. My name is Juan Scribe, and remember, I'm an artist, you're an artist, we are all artists. So I'm thrilled today because we're going to be painting together. I'll show you exactly how to create a very cool John Carpenter's The Thing inspired painting. So I'll show you the materials that you need and exactly what you need to do step by step to create this painting. So to get started, I'm making some sky blue. I'm gonna mix some blue and white. It could be any shade of blue. And what I'm gonna use is a 1/2 inch brush, flat, but it could be anything that is near that size. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly the one I'm using. Then you start just adding some brush strokes, just nice and easy to this upper corner. Okay, and then you start making your way across the canvas. You're gonna eventually leave some spaces for the clouds. Basically the clouds, you're going to leave, as you see right here, I'm leaving a space for that cloud in the center up there. And here I'm going to use some white paint without washing the brush or anything, and I'm going to use it to dab on some clouds in the spaces that I left for the clouds. And I'm going to start off on the outsides of the clouds, on the silver linings, and then I move my way inward in the center of the clouds, or to the center of the clouds. And as I move, down, I'm going to start adding more and more white. And I don't necessarily have to wash the brush or anything. It'll mix nicely with the color that's already on the brush. But I start adding more and more white so that it will gradually turn more and more white as it approaches the middle of the canvas before we add the mountains in a little bit. As you paint this perfect, beautiful, soft sky, it's kind of like the calm before the storm, right? Before the monstrous sprouts and visceral violence that we're going to add to the painting. And it's a great way to segue into the next part. So we're going to add mountains. Actually, we're going to make a bit of a darker blue than the sky, not too much darker, but as you see, there's just a couple of shades darker. And with the same brush, I washed it and I dried it. Start adding some mountain tops, okay, and the pretty classic, mountain tops, semi-pointy tops, right? I'm gonna add 3, not necessarily looking at any picture for reference, just making mountain tops, and then adding a little bit of paint as they, to the bodies of those mountains. Not too much all at once. You still want it to be soft and light, right? And then we'll start doing the same step that we did before, adding white paint. And when we get to about this point, we can start thinking about the foreground, the ground, where it's closer to us, right? And it could be a mixture of white and light blue, and the brush strokes using the same brush are horizontal now. Okay, so now they're not so up and down or dabs. They're just brush strokes that are horizontal to add the ground to the painting. After which we will move on to a smaller brush. I'm going to use a number 10 flat. And with the number 10 flat, or anything around that size, I'm going to start adding light to the left sides of the mountains. And light, I mean just white paint that is added in these sort of streaks, and a little bit of dabbing to mostly one side of each of those mountains. And on to Outpost 31, which is black paint using the same brush. Again, mine is a number 10, but yours could be anything near that, flat. And it is a series of lines and brush strokes. That is it. What I can recommend is that you just simply make every brush stroke that I make to put together this station. You'll see it come together. At first it'll be like we're just drawing lines on the canvas, and it actually just is that. Just watch exactly how I do it and make every mark that I make. So I will be using the brush, the shape of the brush to my advantage. It has different ways that you can turn it, different ways that you can use it to make the brush strokes that you see now, as well as little finer lines. It could be used as a blade sort of paintbrush where it makes very thin lines. You'll see a little bit in a minute. But again, just I want you to have fun though. I want you to start seeing what you're putting together. Okay, I can't wait for some of you to share the finished product. To please share it with me if you do complete it, if you do try it, no matter how it comes out, really. I mean, we're all artists, I mean that, and I want you to paint for you. You know, we're all fans of this great film, and we're all, you know, we all like to pay homage to it in one way or another. And for me, it's drawing, painting, and for you, hopefully part of it is painting with me. So show me what you got. Here I'm making some light blue once again, and with a detail brush or a tiny brush, I'm going to add some windows to some of these buildings. So this control center right here. I'm also going to add some snow and some other effects on the buildings. But it's very light, as you can see. It's almost white. It's much more white than it is blue. Now back to my medium-sized brush, which I'm using a number 10 flat. I'm using some white paint to add some snow to the base of those structures. So it's covering the bottom of them and obstructing our view of the bottom of those structures. And also some on top of some of those buildings, on the roofs, some snow that is building up there. In a minute, we're gonna draw the person, or is he a person? So we're gonna draw him using this same brush, which is a number 10, or anything that you have that's near that, black paint. And I'm gonna start by making the circle for the snorkel, you know, the coat, right, which has the hood to cover his head. So we're making that circle. It's gonna be very round or oval shaped, more round, and it's pretty big, right? I mean, it's like he has like a like he's like a toy. He has like a a big size dome. And then we made the shoulders and the length of his arms to basically to the tip of his fingers on each arm. Those are the thumbs that we added. That's his belt line basically. But then we add another little part there where that's the bottom of his coat, because the coat is a winter coat, is long, and then his legs. Okay, then we add some substance to his arms so they're not just sticks. And now the easy part, okay? This is definitely the easy part. We are going to fill in most of his body now, okay, using black paint. Except for the circle inside his head, I'll say that. Leave some of that, transparent with nothing in there. The circle in his head. What I'm doing here is making another light blue, very, very light, to add some of the light that is hitting the coat. And you'll see that I'm adding it first on his chest, and then I'm going to add to his arms, as well as his sides and his legs. And with that same very light blue that is almost white, I'm gonna add some glare to the inside of that parka hood, and you'll see that I'm also gonna paint the inside of this whole hole white, because that's where the light is the brightest. So I'm gonna paint the inside very, very light white, and then I'm gonna bring out some of that white paint outward. They're gonna be beams of light that are coming out of this head. So I'm starting off with this brush that is what I consider the medium brush of the 3 brushes I'm using, and I'm gonna continue with this brush to make these beams of light. But then you could also make bigger beams of light, right? This whole painting, you could improvise it in any which way to make it more your own. You could use a wider brush so that the beams of light will be wider and cover more space. As you'll see in 1 minute, I'm gonna try to make some of these light beams with a larger brush. So guys, this could actually be the painting if you like. A very nice thing painting, or we could go crazy with it. And if there's one thing I know about thing fans is that we like it very crazy. So I'm gonna actually use red first to make some veins that are just sprouting out of this, not the dead center, but near it. Okay, the white area where there's a lot of light. That's where you can start. Don't start in the very, very center. You do want the very, very center to remain very, very bright. So we leave that untouched for now. But we add as many veins as you want, as you can fit, until your hand gets tired, or as few as you want. Either way, it's your painting. You make it your own version of John Carpenter's thing, right? I mean, this whole take on it is different. You know, the cover has the figure here, but without all these veins sprouting out of it, just light coming from the inside, right, of the face, which is like the monster, right, the transformation, right? It's so bright, and it's reflected in the, that wonderful poster. But we're making it our own. So here I'm adding some darker red, for example, and to make that darker red is simply add a little bit of black to red. You mix red and black. Here I'm going darker and darker to make darker veins that are sprouting. Look, I intertwine them with the bright red ones. You just make them your own. Make them thin or thicker, whatever you would like. Make them look like veins or like tentacles. Here I'm using purple to add some. And while I add all these veins, right, and soon you'll see I also am going to add like an insect looking arm or two, and some like fangs, or like some pointy limbs or pointy sprouts that are going to come out of this center. While I do that, I wanted to talk about the great film that the thing is. I remember, as many people do, watching it and just being blown away as a child or as a young person, right? As many of you were when you watched it first. And it was a VHS copy. It wasn't the best copy, but boy, was I blown away by it. Was I captivated? And ever since then, it just has become my favorite film. The cast is killer. Kurt Russell, Keith David, Wilford Brimley, David Clennon, Richard Masur, Donald Moffat, T.K. Carter, Thomas G. Waits, Peter Maloney, Richard Dysart, Charles Hallahan, Joel Paulis, and a couple of other fellas that played the Norwegian pilots. So they were really quite a cast, right? And the film has become a true science fiction all-time masterpiece. It was a cult classic throughout much of the 90s and early 2000s, but now it's just widely accepted as one of the top horror science fiction films ever made. Now, at first it was actually lambasted and discarded almost by the mainstream, by reviewers, by critics, by many people. It was just seen as repulsive, as disgusting, unwatchable, cheesy in some ways, just terrible. And but I was amazed, and I will never forget the first time I saw that dog transform into this spider-legged, tentacled, creature. And as you can see here, I'm adding some red veins, or mini veins, or blood splatter, or just a little, very, very thin red, like flesh tendrils, anything that you could imagine them to be, really, all of the above. Just connecting those to some of the other larger or thicker ones. As you see, I'm adding them all over, and soon I'll also add some other colors. Like, for example, I'm gonna add some Norris Monster green color to add more and more tentacles or veins or what have you. So I'm continuing to add some features, just messy features, black veins. I'm gonna add some, since the thing took the shape of the creatures that it interacted with or that it encountered. I'm gonna add some insect like, pincer or insect mouth parts, and whatever alien that it interacted with or that it took over, whatever life form it took over. I'm gonna add some crazy pieces coming out of this thing. Some dots, white dots with a detail brush to add, the shine, right? The slime, it's reflecting light on it, so it has some white little tiny dots. After which I'm going to also add a little bit more glare to that center to blur out some of the ends of those veins. You'll see in a second here. I'm gonna add a little bit more glare just to soften some of the parts that are closest to the center, so that they're basically covered in light because it's so bright in that center. And then after that, what I'm going to do is something that I love doing with this and with some other paintings. I'm gonna make a dark red or a medium tinged red, and I'm gonna take that detail brush and splash or sprinkle some blood or some liquid, whatever liquid it is, right? And it could be red, it could be dark red, or it could be any of the other colors that we used. There's all sorts of liquids coming out of this thing, right? Well, I hope that you enjoyed painting with me as much as I enjoy painting with you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check us out at etherealartsstudio.com. Also, check out all our other videos on YouTube.